Hi guys, thanks for coming back. This is the second video in a series of 3 that I'm looking to do. The first video was looking at our right back options. I had 10 right backs that we could possibly sign this year or next. I will link to that video in the description in case you haven't seen it. This video is concentrating on our midfield options, central midfield. And the third video will be looking at our forward options, which include strikers and right wingers. So I want to jump straight in, as the last video did go over a little bit. And the midfielders I've got, there are 8. There are actually 10 midfielders I'm going to mention. 11 being as I was just thinking about one in the back of my head, but I think it's unlikely. The 3 other midfielders are not really targets, but they are, 2 of them are players that we have maybe been linked to, or some of the fans have mentioned on Reddit that they would like us to go for, that I just can't see happening. So the 8 I have got, I could see possibly happening, and let's jump straight in. The first is one I've mentioned on my other video, 4 players that Man United could sign, and he's my first choice. Whether we sign De Jong or not, he is my first choice, and that is Ibrahim Sangar from PSV. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but for those who haven't watched my first video, he's a very good player. He's tenacious in the tackle, he's very good on the ball. He is similar to maybe Basuma and Kante, but in the Dutch league at least he's shown maybe a little bit more about him. When he comes to the Premiership, it might be a little bit more restricted. He might struggle on the ball a little bit more, but he would not be an expensive acquisition. He's one that Ten Hag has mentioned that he likes, that he scouted. That was man of the match in the cup final when PSV beat Ajax last year. And it has been reported, and actually someone on Reddit did tell me in a discussion on Reddit, that his release clause is £30 million. It's actually 35 million euros, but it's roughly £30 million. And I think even if we paid that, that would not be a bad price for the midfielder that he is. He's very different to the midfielders we have. He's different to De Jong, who I believe is going to be our first choice kind of base of midfield in front of the centre-backs. If Sangar comes in, he might be an alternative to De Jong in rotation, or when we need a destroyer kind of defensive midfielder. Even though he's not a true destroyer, he's more that kind of player than whereas De Jong is a kind of a deep line playmaker. He wants the ball, he wants to make things happen. Sangar will be winning the ball, blocking off avenues, making tackles, and then passing the ball to your likes of Eriksen or Bruno, or De Jong if he does play alongside him. As I say, his release clause is around about £30 million. We might be able to get him for 20-25 million if we put a bid in. PSV might hold out. They will see that Ajax are not the same team this year. They've sold a lot of players, they've lost their manager. PSV could see this year as the year that they're going to win, or at least challenge for the Eredivisie. So in that case, maybe Sangar is one that could come next year. If they do win the league, or they try and still stumble, Sangar might want a new challenge after a few years at PSV. My next is more a player that I believe we should go for if De Jong falls through. And again, I mentioned him on my other video, and it's a player that I absolutely love. A lot of my friends are Wolves fans, and I always say to them about Neves coming to United. He needs to play for United. Seeing him and Bruno in midfield would be incredible. He is a top player. He's so underrated by everyone outside of Wolves fans. He's constantly in space. I've mentioned in previous videos how he reminds me of Carrick and Scholes. He's so intelligent off the ball and on the ball. His passing is incredible. He plays for, Wolves fans won't let me saying it, but what is a defensive, counter-attacking Wolves side who rely on the goals of Jimenez. They struggled when he was out injured, and the kind of wing brilliance of Neto, and obviously in centre midfield they also have Moutinho, who is just top class, but he's getting on. Everything that goes through Wolves goes through Ruben Neves. He scores the occasional banger, and his name is in the papers for that. Goal of the season contender. But those 2, 3, 4 goals a season are not the top of his game. That's just a cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake. His passing is incredible. His interceptions, applying pressure to players both on and off the ball. he is the player that I would absolutely love us to sign if De Jong falls through. Now, if we sign De Jong, I cannot see us getting Neves. They're two similar players. Defensively, Neves is probably a little bit better. De Jong is better when it comes to carrying the ball, dribbling, football intelligence. But Neves does have that Premiership experience. He's strong. He can handle the tackles, the fighting, the bruising. De Jong might struggle there. We've yet to be seen. Neves would be my first choice. Well, maybe second choice. If we don't get De Jong, I'd like to see us sign two midfielders, and one would be Sanger, and the other would be Ruben Neves to fill that De Jong role. Third on my list is Grealish, formerly of Hoffenheim. He's available on a free. Austrian international, so maybe Ralf Rangnick would do us a favour there. But he's available on a free. The downside being, I think he wants quite big wages, and he isn't proven as kind of a top tier player, so maybe he's asking for wages a little bit too high. Also, there are 2 or possibly 3 teams I've seen that were talking to his agent, who I believe is his dad, and have found him incredibly difficult to work with and have pulled out of negotiations altogether. So that could be a negative. Not only would we have to deal with his father in relation to signing, but then contract renewals, or if another team bids for him. Could it be a similar experience that we had with Mino Raiola when he was here with Pogba? So that is a negative. The positive is he's on a free. He's an experienced international player. He's a good player. He is maybe not a traditional defensive midfielder, but he can fill that role a lot better than Fred or McTominay can. And he's a different kind of player to De Jong. So if we sign De Jong, he could be a player that could play alongside or in rotation with him, and not having to spend a fee on him is obviously a bonus. But as I said, his agent's fee and wages would probably be quite high. Fourth on my list is another Austrian that, again, Rangnick might put a word in for us, but after the way we treated Rangnick, it wouldn't surprise me if he told these Austrian players to stay away. But he seems a better man than that, so it's yet to be seen. That is something I wanted to talk about as well, that there are a lot of good Austrian players at the minute, and Austrian youth players and prospects. Hopefully that Rangnick, while he's not in his consultancy role with United anymore, hopefully he's still in contact with some of the scouting department and guys at the top, and he can recommend players to us. But the next player, again another Austrian, is Lima from Red Bull, who apparently is looking to leave this year. Now, reports are saying that Bayern have agreed terms with him and are just ironing out the fee, which is believed to be around 30 million. His contract release clause is 30 million euros, I believe, and that is, I think, reported what Bayern have agreed with him. Now, if Bayern have agreed a fee with him, then realistically we stand no chance. His compatriot and former captain Marcel Sabitzer, he's already at Bayern, so obviously he will put a good word in and he will want his countrymen playing alongside him again. They used to play together at Leipzig and they both played under Nagelsmann, who is now manager of Bayern. So if Bayern want him, it's a done deal. We have no chance really. But if there is an option there to get him, I would love for us to go to him. Some will say he's more box-to-box than defensive midfield, but similar to Grealish, he's maybe a little bit more forward-thinking than Grealish, but he is a player, I think, that could fill that role and do well for us, much better than Fred and McTominay. My real hope for this season is that Fred will be playing a bit further forward, as he did for Brazil. I did mention on my previous video following the 4-0 drubbing of Liverpool how Fred played and how further forward he was, and the chip from the edge of the box. He's not going to do that if he's in a defensive midfield position. Maybe under Ten Hag we will see the defensive midfielder, most likely De Jong, getting forward and in those positions, but if Fred is there, it's unlikely, and under pressure of players harrying him, trying to tackle him, he doesn't do well. He has lost the ball numerous times in that position. So Lima and Grealish, they would do better than Fred or McTominay in that position. Again, these are players that I think could be signed alongside De Jong, not just instead of, other than Neves. Next on my list is a player that we've been linked with quite a lot recently. I don't know where the rumours have come from, whether we have put in a request or if he just wants to leave. But he's PSG's Leandro Paredes. I actually remember when they signed Paredes when he left. Now, I might be totally wrong here, but I am sure he came to PSG a couple of years ago from Zenit, or at least the Russian league. And we were linked with him as well, and I really wanted him then, but he chose PSG. I'm not sure how far we were in for him, whether we had discussions or a bid accepted. He went to PSG a couple of years ago. He kind of hasn't had the playing time he wanted with the superstars they have, and obviously Verratti is first choice centre mid whenever he's fit. Paredes he's already 28 or he's turning 28 very soon. Apparently they want 30 million euros for him, so around about 25 million pounds. He's a top experienced player. You know, he's still got 3 or 4 good years left in him. He could be a decent signing, but as I say, we don't know how much of these reports is that Man United want him or just that he wants out of PSG. He strikes me as a kind of player more suited to Spain or Italy than the Premiership, but it's yet to be seen. He is an Argentinian international, and generally Argentinian internationals do quite well in the Premiership, especially midfielders. I'm thinking obviously Mascherano. All those years ago we had Varane, and I absolutely loved him. As a kid, my favourite player was Roy Keane, and it was just unfortunate we had Roy Keane at the same time as Varane. I loved him when he came to United. I was gutted when he left. I was gutted it didn't work out. Paredes is obviously a different kind of player. I just like mentioning Varane's name. One of the 3 players that I'm mentioning that we're probably not going to sign is just one I was thinking of when I was writing down about Paredes. A few years ago, I quite wanted Idrissa Gana Gueye from Everton. He's gone to PSG. Apparently, he's on the way out. He's a few years older. He's in his 30s now. Could he do a job for us? Possibly. He knows the Premiership. He'll be available for quite cheap. He is what they call a cheap alternative, a B-Tech Kante. But there have been a few things that have come out recently about to do with his religion and some homophobic views. So obviously those go against him as well. You don't want players like that in your team. You want characters that are inclusive. I'm not going to get too drawn out on the politics, but you want the right characters in your team. And if he does have these kind of views that will clash, then you don't want him. You don't want players that the fans are going to boo and dislike. So obviously we're not in for him. He's not on my list. He's just a name that I thought I'd mention as I was thinking PSG and players that might be on the move. After him is another Argentinian, but one at the other end of his career, a 21-year-old. That a lot of clubs have been linked with, including us last year, is Enzo Fernandez. He is still playing in Argentina for River Plate. His release clause is apparently 17 million euros. So, 13, 14 million pounds. It's a very under the radar signing. If we're signing De Jong, then this young lad Fernandez is 21. He could come in, and have some game time here and there and get used to the team. He could have a year or 2 of getting used to the team, playing sporadically. And nobody will expect the world from him. De Jong is the star signing. My downside to this is that we do have our own 21, 22-year-old in James Garner, who is a player I really like, who I really want to see given minutes this year. So that is one of the reasons I would be against Fernandez. For any Football Manager players out there, this is exactly what we do. We have these young prospects who we love and want to see play, but we see that one is available in Argentina or Brazil, and we sign them for 10, 12, 13 million pounds, and are stacked in that position and struggle to give game time to all of them. So that's not really what I want to see us do at Man United. We should only have 1 or 2 youth prospects for every position if possible. And Garner, I believe, is the biggest prospect we have from our youth team, with the experience he's had in the last couple of years at Forest. Even at Watford, where it didn't work out, he's been at another team, he's given it a try, he's had different managers, different systems. I believe he can be moulded to Ten Hag's system. I believe he's one player that absolutely can adapt his game to Ten Hag. There are other players that are a bit more experienced. You look at McTominay and Fred, they're already kind of set in their ways of how they play. They're not going to change too much. Garner can still adapt his game to fit Ten Hag's system, and I really hope he gets minutes. So for that reason, I'm against Fernandes. The price is great, his potential is great, but will he be blocking Ghana's route into the team? And not only Ghana, we've seen how well Zidane, Iqbal and Charlie Savage did against Liverpool. It's only a friendly, but these are two more players that their route to the team could get blocked. Whereas if we're buying an older player to be our starting defensive midfielder or alongside De Jong, while they will be getting minutes that these centre midfielders won't get, they are to come in for 2 or 3 years and see how they do. And at that time, by then Ghana surely will be in the team. If not, we've realised maybe he's not going to make the step up. Maybe McTominay will leave and Ghana will take his place, or vice versa with Fred. But in 3 or 4 years, when Savage and Iqbal maybe are ready to be first team players, whoever we've signed this year, if it's Paradis at 28 years old, he could be leaving then at 31, 32 years old. We'll see. Next on my list is Fabian Ruiz of Napoli. To me, I actually spoke to a friend of mine who is a Napoli fan, watches all their games, and has told me that Ruiz is more of a Ruben Neves type player, a deep playmaking kind of player, but he's quite tough in the tackle. But he has said this is for Serie A where teams defend as a unit. So, maybe he could be an alternative to De Jong if that falls through and if Neves doesn't work out. But he's a player I don't know a fat lot about other than what my friend has recommended, and knowing that he's a good player from watching Napoli in Europe. But the reason he's on my list majorly is because he apparently wants a new challenge, and he has 1 year left on his contract, and there is a possibility of the fee between 20 and 30 million euros he could be got. He is 26 years old. He turned 26 a couple of months ago. As I said, his contract is expiring, and he is another option for us. But as I say, I don't know a lot about him. I'm not going to pretend I do. That's why he's so low down on the list. The next player I do know a little bit more about. He's a player I like very much. He's actually the last player on the list, but those are for different reasons, which I'll go into. And it's a player we've been linked to for maybe 5 years now. I've probably seen his name linked to us since his early 20s. And that's Milinkovic-Savic of Lazio. Incredible player. One that there has been times where apparently we've agreed £100 million or euro deal, only for it to fall through at the last minute, if reports are to be believed, whether you believe the standard British red tops as they're called. He's a player I'd love to see at United. He is 28 years old. Sorry, he turns 28 in February. And he also has 1 year left on his contract. He has said that he's not going to extend his contract. He wants to leave. Whether Lazio will have 1 more year of him and hope that he takes them to the Champions League the following year is yet to be seen. They might want to get a fee for him again, 30 million euros possibly, which is like 25 million pounds. He's an unreal player. Serbian, he's got a load of caps for Serbia. He's played bags of games in Serie A for Lazio, and I do believe he could play for pretty much any team in the world. He is that good. Now, the reason he's so far down on my list is that I believe he is a McTominay or Fred replacement. He's a box-to-box player. He's not a defensive midfield. Again, he could do a better job than McTominay or Fred at defensive midfield, but if we signed him, it would be to be that box-to-box player. Now, of all the years of Pogba potentially leaving, and which he has now done, Milinkovic-Savic has constantly been a player that has been rumoured to replace him. And could that be the case? I'm not too sure. I think Eriksen is maybe going to take Pogba's place. So we will see. If he's available, Milinkovic-Savic, and he's moving this season, then we really have to be in for him. But it would leave us in a position where we've got 3 players, Milinkovic-Savic, Fred and McTominay, that play the same kind of role. Also, you can put Donny into that mix. He's not as defensive, a box-to-box. He's quite tenacious in the tackle. He's not scared of a tackle, but I wouldn't say he's as much of that player as McTominay and Fred are, or especially Milinkovic-Savic. So that's potentially 4 players for that position. Ghana, it's yet to be seen. Is he going to be a box-to-box player? We're getting kind of stacked in that position if we're signing SMS from Lazio, and it's more the players of the kind of Sangar or Basuma, who has now moved unfortunately, or Neves even. Those are the kind of players that we need, but I couldn't leave them off the list for 1 year left on his contract. Let me know what you think of the players mentioned, and I do just want to say that I mentioned on the last video for right backs, we would have to sell a right back to bring one in. I don't see that happening this summer. Central midfield, I think once De Jong is done, we'll see what's going to happen. But my thinking is that De Jong might be the only central midfield option, the only central midfield signing, sorry. And he will be playing at the base of midfield, and we'll have Eriksen. Eriksen could play further forward, but he might play central midfield. And then one of Fred, McTominay, Garner, maybe Van der Beek. And Martinez will be signed to kind of be a hybrid centre-back defensive midfielder in and out of possession that pushes forward. Well, I would love to see us sign another defensive-minded midfielder. Sangar would be my first choice, as I've mentioned. But I do believe De Jong will be the only signing this year. All the players will be given a chance. Fred, McTominay, and then next year. As I've said, one of Maguire and Lindelof in a previous video, I've said I think we'll leave next summer. I believe next summer we might see Fred or McTominay leave, depending on how this season goes. But I think Ten Hag will give them a chance. Same with Dalot and Wan-Bissaka, I think he'll give them a chance. Thank you all for watching my video. Let me know of the players I've mentioned. Let me know if there's any players I've missed out that you think could do a job. That Czech Decore is another one that's been mentioned when I've talked to people, but it looks like that's a done deal to Palace. Again, any comments, criticisms, I'm trying to keep them down to 10-15 minutes, but again, this one has gone to 20 minutes. I do apologise, that's something I'll pick up over time. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.